Hey there. I'm going to spend a few minutes sharing with you a bunch of ideas, variations, tips, all that kind of stuff on how you can perform at least 12, maybe 14, 15 of the tricks from my popular 22 Blows to the Head mentalism project. How you can adapt these to perform them online. The key to this kind of stuff is that the challenge is twofold always when taking a trick that you usually perform live and then doing it on FaceTime or Skype or Zoom. The challenge is twofold. One, of course, from a trick point of view, from an illusion point of view, maintaining the illusion, maintaining that it's still deceptive, that the information you convey visually and with your words, and still leave, of course, the viewer, your friends or whoever you're performing for on camera, they are still amazed. Obviously, that's challenge one, is how to do that. Challenge two is more subtle. Challenge two is about maintaining engagement. Because the big challenge, and I mention this a lot sort of on my lectures and workshops and things, the big challenge in magic is less about fooling people. That's not very hard to do. Uh, you can grab a few basic principles and fool people all day long. The challenge is getting people to care. To getting them to care, because if they don't care, then you just have this trick that's like, oh yeah, you got me. As opposed to, what just happened? Getting people to invest. So it's a twofold challenge, particularly now when on this medium, on a video, as opposed to live. Live, you got so much going on. You also, with a live performance, have a chance to make things relevant. They're in and of the moment. You're in a restaurant or a bar or at school with friends, and even just having your friend pass you a pencil, off the table there. Well, it was something that was there. We're all here together, same time of day, and all this kind of thing. There's a relevancy. It's rooted in that. So people care. It seems to matter. It matters. When you do it on with a video medium like this, on like FaceTime, it becomes more challenging for sure to bring all that stuff to life, to getting people to care. So a lot of that's about personality. And that I can't really teach you much about. It's about personality, and it's about simplicity, keeping it simple. Don't get caught up trying to, one of the things you can tell when people haven't practiced the trick enough is they talk more and more. I got this, I got cards. Remember, you chose any, and they backtrack. They try to emphasize what's happened. Well, everyone already knows it's very clear. Can you get on to the next part? Oh, they want to emphasize that part. So you really need to, it's almost impossible to present a trick or share a moment of magic too simply, too basically. It's almost impossible to do that. But it's extremely likely that you'll make it too complicated. So really, more than ever, on this kind of stuff, you've got to keep it simple. Now, when I was going to prepare these notes, because I've actually performed not all of these, but I'd say probably at least 6 or 7 of the tricks I'm going to give you some tips on here from 22 Blows to the Head. At least 6 or 7 I've been performing on FaceTime or Skype corporate meetings and things for a long time. I haven't shared a lot of this information or really suggested the idea that, hey, a lot of the tricks on 22 Blows to the Head can be just a little tweak. You can make them really rock online and this kind of virtual performances. I haven't really shared that information because I've been busy with other stuff and this and that. But of course, these days, with the pandemic and everybody at home, I thought this kind of information might be really valuable, especially valuable to my fans. So I'm sharing it now on this video. I wrote up a whole bunch of notes. My plan was to send these notes, sort of a PDF file, during a recent promotion of 22 Blows to the Head. But then I started looking at it and thinking, it's going to be a lot easier for my fans to get this information over video. Ironically, why I didn't think of that, since this is about video. Anyway, so I'm going to share this stuff with you now. You're going to see a lot of it's just comments and thoughts, okay? So maybe you can get a cup of coffee and go online and just sort of do a little, something, and you can hear me talk. It's almost, you can hear me talk about this stuff. But a lot of the tips and ideas I'm going to give you for the particular tricks you can apply to other tricks, both on the project as well as out of your own repertoire. Okay, so let's jump on in. Okay. First thing I want to comment is I know a lot of people don't have. I have a little tripod, one of these 8-inch phone tripods. If you're going to start performing this mentalism stuff regularly on FaceTime or whatever, get one of the little tripods. They're cheap. Get one of them. Don't just prop up your phone against a coffee cup or a bottle of water or a wall on your desk or whatever in your living room on a pillow. Don't just do that, because it really limits the angles, how you can frame the shot. It's very important for a lot of the tricks I'm going to share with you here that people get a sense that they can see everything. That certain things remain in full view through the entire performance. So you really need to be thoughtful about where the camera is, the angle of the camera, all that kind of thing. They say in video production, the two most important things, and everything else let it slide, but there's only two things you need to remember. One is audio quality. So make sure you're in a room that's silent as you can. Probably the guys that start across the street there will start working with a jackhammer. But you want a quiet room. I always tell my students, you've got to choose the right moment for magic. Choose the moment, right? So the same thing goes with this stuff, is you want to make sure, so no distracting sounds if you can when you're sharing this. And second, the lighting. Make sure the lighting is decent. Usually, I have a couple of little lights in this room, but I also have just a big window over there providing. It's a God's light box. It is the best light box. So lighting and sound, keep that in mind. Little tripod, don't just try to prop it up. Okay, boom. Okay, let's jump on in. The trick graffiti. Graffiti is one of my favorite tricks off 22 Blows, and crazy effect. Anybody you meet for the first time, you don't know their name, all of a sudden you pick a card and their name appears on the card. So obviously you can't perform this on FaceTime for a friend who you already know their name. You could still force a card on Fred and say, isn't that amazing, Fred? Because look, your name, it's the only card with your name on it. Not a bad trick. But what I've done with FaceTime is if someone you know or a client, even whatever, you say, let's try something here. Now, your name obviously is Jason. Obviously it's Jason. But if you could have any other first name in the world other than Jason, anyone, doesn't matter, which one would you have? So adapt that presentation to graffiti. And that way, you're able to, in that way, force a card, get one ahead with their names, the whole bit. Exactly as per graffiti, okay? But the name you're using is the one name they wish they had if they didn't have their own already first name. So it's a creative thing, it's something right out of their mind, and it's a great way to take that trick and really adapt it online. Okay. Oh, and you use, out of all the different card forces, there are a bunch of different card forces you can use online through these live sort of virtual performances. The riffle force is still so practical. Going down, they call stop. You don't have to cut the camera at all, like whatsoever, and you can show them their card and whatever. So with graffiti, as it's taught on the Project 22 Blows, I use the riffle force, and I urge you to stick with that force for this trick. It works really well. Okay. Another good trick is homicide. Where you shuffle around those envelopes, and you've got the, and the stick man and all that kind of thing. So here's the situation. One of the big challenges with doing magic or mentalism virtually is that they can't examine anything. You're other side of the city. You're hundreds of miles away. Whatever. They can't examine anything. Which is why mentalism so often can play stronger virtually than magic. Because with mentalism, one of the key elements to any routine is their thought, and there's no examining required of that prop. That's their thought. Magic, a lot of times, you do something crazy with a string, and at the end of it, they're thinking, man, I wish I could examine that piece of string, but they can't. So that's why mentalism plays so well, and homicide. So with all the tricks you do, you really have to be especially above board. And anytime you're trying to offer something that, in place of them examining it, the trick can't rely on that, the reality being, that's only has to be a convincer, an addition. So homicide, for example, they can't examine the first batch of those envelopes from homicide. They can't examine them. So you have to take the time to open the flaps and really show them. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now now notice, and this will come up again and again. You need to frame the shot wide enough and you need to be far enough back and have it surface here, not like here. People think, wow, Sankey's even shorter than I thought. But you need to set up a shot often. If you really want to astound people and use as many of these tricks as you can, you need to set up a wide shot, okay, with a surface, so that while you're doing everything, in this case, the envelopes remain on the table in full view throughout the entire time. If I'm like this, and I hold up one envelope and I show it to you, it's empty, put it down, pick up another envelope, show it to you, put it down, for all they know, you're showing them the same envelope. For all they know, this, that, you really have to pull it back, okay? Now, with homicide, you do a switch, an off-camera switch. Let's see here. Right, and like with a lot of the tricks here, you're going to find, of course, it's very easy to have a stack, show them, they stay full view, pick up the stack, reach off camera, just out of frame to get that hole punch and bring that back and bring that into frame. And when I bring it back up into frame, I'm doing click, 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 they can see it. Keep these in view. The idea is these never left their sight. But of course, for just a beat, they did. There's several tricks on 22 blows to the head that require that kind of switch of a few things in your hand at one go while you're getting something just off camera. And you're going to find if you do it smoothly, they're never going to backtrack to thinking from a multiple choice situation to they're going to be thinking, how did you control or force them maybe to take one of these? They're not thinking that you ever switched an entire group in and out, because especially you'll find the structuring on all this stuff is designed. When I first performed this stuff live and then started doing virtually, it's designed to work so well because you're grabbing something interesting, something. And when you're setting up doing a performance for a friend, the idea that you implicitly forgot to pull this into the shot that, oh, I got this here, it works beautifully. So just do it with confidence and it'll work just fine, but make sure you have a wide enough shot. Because if you're doing everything like this, then all you're going to do is from the very beginning inspire them to be suspicious, to actually start to think what else is in the shot, you know? So you pull it back, okay, way back. So the surface is there, so you're there, okay? Okay, so with Homicide, like I said, you need to show the envelopes. Now, when it comes time for them to pick an envelope, there's lots of different ways you can do this, okay? And I've used most of these in different kinds of performances. One thing is you just fan out the envelopes at the end there. Like so. Okay, now I want you to choose one of the envelopes. Want number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one? You want number 2. You pull it up a little. You're sure you want number 2. You don't want number 4, number 5. Oh, you don't? Okay, put that. Number 5. You're sure that's the one you want. Number 5, yes. So that's an easy and very fair way. They can't touch and they can't pick, but you can do the numbers. You can even mark them. You can even, once you've done the switch, you can even on camera, very slowly, there's a 1 on that envelope, move back to the back. There's a 2 on that one, move back to the back. Everything stays in the shot. You, with a marker, mark them, and then they can choose one, okay? So that's one workaround. It's very convincing in this situation. And the camera's bugging me because it's there. There. Is that a little bit better? I think so. Okay. Okay. The laying on of hands. I love the build of this trick, laying on of hands. It really builds, but again, you need to make sure the engagement, they stay engaged, or it can become a dry demonstration, and you really want to avoid that. Okay. So the first challenge here in laying on of hands is, and this will come up a few times with some of these tricks, is your friend or the client through this virtual performance needs to be 100% sure the cards are actually mixed up. All right? Cards are actually mixed up. Yes, you can take the cards and you can shuffle them and you can do riffle shuffle, and that can be very convincing. But the 2 suggestions I'll make for you right now is to take the cards and divide them into, after you shuffle them like this, divide them on the table in the shot, okay? Divide them into 7 or 8 packets. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Now, Frank, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 packets here. I'm going to put them together in a totally random way. You're going to tell me. Which one am I starting with? Number 4? Okay, 4. What am I putting on top there? Number 3, okay. Which one's next? Oh, number 6, okay. And which one's there? And which one? The last 2. Which is the last? This one, and then this is the last one going on top. I think you'd agree that's a shuffled deck of cards. So there's a way to get them to be engaged, involved, and really be convinced the cards are mixed up. Another way to do it, and I've done this a bunch of times, is to take the deck, put it on the table, and this is where you got to readjust your camera. This is why it's nice to have a little tripod that can angle the camera, is smush the cards on the table literally like a child does. 2 hands, make big circles. They can see all the face-down cards are totally going absolutely everywhere. Then you take a moment to get it all together into a pack. That's another way to do that. If they are not convinced the deck is actually and truly shuffled, then there's no point to the trick. So you really need to consider ways that are going to work for you. You could take the cards, put them in a blender, but then they're going to be destroyed. So I don't think that's a great idea. All right? Laying on hands. Okay. So I talked about that. Okay. Now here, laying on hands also uses the riffle peak. As taught on the 22 blows to the head. What a great principle. Old school. You can use the riffle peak just by itself online, right? You can give the cards a casual shuffle. And it can be casual because here it's something they're going to think of. Notice the difference here. It's not like having cards selected in the arrangement of cards. Here's just the deck go through, call stop. You saw one. Okay. You did see one. You got one in your mind. Okay. Lean into the camera. I want to look in your eyes as closely as I can. Lean in because light doesn't vanish immediately. Light actually hangs around for a millisecond. So I want to see if maybe there's still a dull reflection of the color of the suit of the card on the surface of your eye. Talk about a load of crap, huh? Love it. But anyway, so that riffle peak, and you get a peek on the way down or while putting the cards in the card case. So fair. Very hard to beat the directness of something like that with a virtual performance, okay? Let's see here, my top card case. Oh, right, important range things, that's right. This is the same rule of thumb I mentioned here, that you're not going to be able to put one of the cards on the table for them to put their hand on, okay? You're not going to be able to do that. So you can take the card and put it on the card case. You can take the card, put it on top of a coffee cup, maybe a bottle of water that's also in the shot. But it has to stay in the shot. Really important for you to rehearse these a little bit so you don't end up adjusting the camera 4 times during a show, and you adjust it 4 times. At any point, someone's going to think, well, I think he switched them. When he went like this with the camera, he just kind of switched the cards when I couldn't see. It has to stay in the shot. Okay, you got to think about that. Okay, mute, the trick with the bells. Here's another example. They can't physically select one of them. So if you take a nice wide shot, okay, or you'll sometimes find that there's value. And this is tricky because you know what the most engaging part of any shot is in this kind of FaceTime or Skype? It's your eyes. Sure, you want the right lighting and you need the audio, but your eyes in this game. Oh God. It's your eyes. So sometimes what I've done before is I've started by talking to a friend, setting up a premise for a trick. Then I adjust the camera, tilt it down, and the rest of the shot's just on the table, on the bells, on the envelopes, on the deck of cards, and I walk them through or talk the whole thing. It can be great visually, but then you lose the engagement factor here. So that's why it's so great if you can get a camera that's got a bit of rather than having a big move around, okay? Because you need to kind of almost balance this notion again of engagement versus what they're seeing on the table. With mute, again, they can't actually pick up a bell, so you're going to have to do that stuff for them. So what I've done in the past, I've done a few different things here. You're going to have 8 bells out and number them. Okay, how many? Choose a number from 1 to whatever, which number, which bell. Move that one forward. You're sure number 4 is the one. You're sure you don't want to, okay, back number 3 like this. But what I've done to try to solve things sometimes is to raise the props closer to my face so I get the best of both worlds. Now, it's not up to here. It's the magic talking head of Al Jarreau. It's not just, he's an old jazz musician. Sorry about that reference. But if you get 8 or 9 white styrofoam cups, okay, you number them 1, 2, 3, each of the cups, and you put those on the surface, and you put a bell on top of each. Now, all the bells are raised. Okay, the shot can be a bit tighter, and the numbers give them the choice. Very fair. So that's a cool thing. Now, with this, there is an examine quality at the end of mute, where you're showing that only, we're showing that this one rings and this one doesn't ring, that kind of thing, or jingles. People will believe you. Okay, they don't think they're gimmick. There's a magnet. It's some sort of set where these bells are chemical, and they will believe if you just handle it naturally. So that's one of the things about mute that I still have performed mute virtually, but it's one of the things that you're going to have to really be able to make sure that they believe you about the ringing and the non-ringing. Okay, let's see. Simply Divine. I performed Simply Divine, one of my probably my top 5 mentalism card tricks, impromptu things, live and virtually. It's so powerful. So here the question is about getting them to choose several cards out of a deck of cards, okay? Now, you can go through, and this all I do virtually, okay? And the camera is, of course, a little high here. All I do is I go through and I vary one by one by one, okay? Like this, to have them select a card. So I go like this and say, I want you to say that card. At some point, I'm going to slowly go through the cards, and I want you to say that card. Okay, here we go. They say that card, and I push this card forward. I say, are you sure? They say yes. I'm going to leave that card forward. Let's do another one. I'm going to go slowly, and I push through the cards, and they say that card, and I push that one. So one by one, they're seeing me outjog the cards. That is a totally convincing way to have someone select several cards from the pack after you've done some sort of shuffle. Okay, totally convincing way to do that. Yeah, so that's and then you're in that same position with a bunch of outjog cards for the Vernon substitute transfer, the whole bit. All right. Now for the countdown force at the end of that trick, because typically, let's say you've got how many cards do I have here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 9 cards. Okay, 9 cards. Typically what I do is I say 9, how many cards do we have? Their selection's on the bottom here, okay? I reverse count the cards on to, here we go like this. We'll do this like this. Okay, there, like that. Okay. So reverse count the cards down. I go 1, 2, how many? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got 9 cards, which brings their selection to the top. Then I say, name a number. If you want a 9, they say 4. And I say, okay, so in a moment, what I'm going to ask you to do is just deal them down. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like this. Pick up the packet, put it back on top, which brings their selection to the 4th position, all set for when they deal down, right? They, of course, can't grab the cards and do the final. So it's just a presentational tweak because this is such a strong, natural flowing trick. I wanted to make sure you could perform this virtually, okay? So what I do here is I do the 9 cards. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? Make sure they're in the shot here, like this. 9 cards. I say, name a number 1 and 4. They say 4. I say, okay, now, if you were here, I would have you deal down 1, 2, 3, write down the 4 cards if you were here, but you're not here. So I'm going to do it for you, and I'm going to do it very slowly. So watch me. I'm not going to do anything fancy, no sleight of hand, no secret switches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's the way I do that presentationally. So important to keep it simple again. You could come up with some mumbo-jumbo thing that all of a sudden, and you know what mumbo-jumbo mostly does? It just makes people suspicious, okay? And you want to avoid any and all that as I get very particular and anal with my camera angle. There. So that's a workaround with the countdown force for Simply Divine, okay? It's a great way. And I love that force. There's so many different things. I've used that with baseball cards, with postcards. I've used it with a bunch of things, envelopes. Okay, let's see. Resistance is futile. This is the FaceTime trick I recently shared on YouTube. So strong. The fanning out of the cards and the naming one card. It's the one with the different color back. Or it's the one. However, on 22 Blows to the Head, an older version I used to use, I use all the Jack of Spades, or all the cards have the same, all the face cards are identical. On the one on YouTube I recently shared, I think I came up with a much better method, which is that they're all face cards, okay? But they're not the same face card. You got King of Diamonds, Jack of Clubs, Queen of Spades. They're all different with the ace in the middle. That way, clearly the ace is the one you're suggesting, right? But because all the other cards are different, rather than having to figure out which of the Jack of Spades in the original version, because in the original version, they could touch one or take one, right? Or not take it, but they could touch it. So virtually what you do is you say, go ahead, try to make it hard for me. I'm going to try to force you to name the one card that is different than the others, but I want you to try to fight me and name one of the cards that you think is not different from all the others, something like that. So this way they can name the Jack of Spades or the Queen of Hearts or the King of Diamonds right there. You move that forward, turn around, show us the odd color back, then show all the others. Okay, so really powerful. I really like the newer version, particularly virtually, of course. The cut here force. Oh, the cut here force. Again, on 22 Blows to the Head, I use it with a list. I've used this force for so many things, all right? I used to use it years ago with a list of stuff I grabbed at a gas station. It was like chocolate bars, bag of chips, lottery ticket, etc. And one of them, a pair of sunglasses. And I'd say cut here, and they would cut, boom. You want to go up a little bit, down a little bit, cut, boom. And it would look little sunglasses. But because they cut them in half, and sitting on the table there was a paper bag, like I had just come from a gas station, paper bag. Inside were a pair of sunglasses cut in half. And the sunglasses cut in half right here. The sunglasses cut in half, and the force, the whole thing really was very strong. So this force, anyway, you can use it with many different things. It's great for virtual. It can be a list of famous movies, right? A list of famous music bands. I've used it at corporate shows where I ask for the first name of the key staff, like 15, 20 people in a big banquet hall, the key staff, and I'll kind of mention them. Oh, everyone knows Steve, and everyone knows Sue, and this kind of thing. And then I'd use it there. So there's so many things you can do. The one thing I'd tell you about this, to adapt it to a virtual performance, make sure you're standing. Often with virtual performances, we tend to be sitting casually. But when you do this cut here and the piece falls and you need a little misdirection to revolve this 180 and bend down, you going off camera, all that stuff's not ideal, okay? So what I do virtually is I set it up as a stand-up shot, okay? I'm way in the back there. See, the thing about a wide shot is you can always come forward to the camera and talk and instruct and engage and make a joke or whatever, okay? But then you can back right up and do your thing. Whereas if you set up a close-up shot, you can't always do it the same way. So a nice wide shot for this, for sure. You're standing, you're going to go down, you're going to clip, the piece is going to fall to the floor. Keep this in the shot if you can. That's why a nice wide shot, keep this above the table, okay? Clip, bending down to get it, okay? And it's above, it stays in the shot the entire time. That makes sure that no one gets suspicious about other possible methods, all right? So there's that. Let's see here. The mercurial prediction. Yeah, rather than having them touch one of the face-up cards, they can name any card they see. You spread out the entire pack. And the folded card on the clip, again, needs to stay in the shot the entire time. Don't make the mistake of showing it, putting it on the table, it's vanished. It's gone. They name a card, and hey, it's a folded. For all they know, you got 52 folded cards, right? So you can, and there's lots of dramatic things you can do. I've had the folded card and paperclip in a clear balloon, sitting on the table, and they can see it's in the clear balloon. You can show it, leave it there, then burst it later. And under the bursting and removing of the thing and the clip, there's lots of cover for the switch. I also like a wine glass. I've used lots of virtual performances where it's just a wine glass because it looks pretty. It's got a nice contained glass space. Clear, they can see the paperclip sitting in the wine glass, it's propped up there. It's in the shot the whole time, okay? So that works really well. Symbolic, the coin trick, based on the old double-sided, double-headed coin with dates on both sides. Symbolic. You can't ask to borrow change virtually, okay? They could mail it to you, you could rip it open, the signature, the whole bit, but no. What I do with this, and it's real simple, is I have 4 or 5 quarters, matching coins basically, just off to the side of the camera. They are all unmarked, okay? They have nothing on either side of them, 4 or 5 of them. Then I have another 5 or 6, again, just laid out on the table here, all with a popular geometric shape already drawn on one side with a big thick marker. Nobody can tell heads or tails. They can just sort of see in the shot. So I've got a triangle, circle, heart, square, star, okay? And so you start by saying, I'm going to do something with some coins. I want you to think of a geometric shape you have in your mind. Okay, I want you to say it out loud, whichever one, doesn't matter. Name anyone, doesn't matter, and they say square. And you say, yeah, it's actually, a lot of people say square. We'll use square. Well, we could have done anything here. So you grab your coins, if you grab them all up, including the one with the square on one side, and you show the quarters. Real casually. You don't turn them all over, okay? Or you could do slightly, but it's better to be able to show them all in the hand and say, look, I've got some coins here. We're going to try something with some coins. They're not thinking, hey, I wonder if he's got on one side secretly marked something already. You're just showing some coins real casually, okay? Then you say, and you mention the square, and you, in full view, draw the square on one side of a coin, right? Like this. And then you draw a triangle, you draw a heart, whatever, like this. You draw them on all those, right? Then you can put these, since they are not going to shake them in their hand or anything, you take these and put them in a clear glass or a coffee cup. And this is, again, where it's important. You put them all inside there. And now you would maybe adjust your camera on this one in particular. Because it's important that they see your hands, the cup, and they need to see when you spill them out. They need to see real time. As you one by one get rid of them, because you're narrowing it down to the double coin, the force. They need to see one by one. So you'd adjust the camera shake here, then at the very end. Then once they see the reality of what happened in real time, then you can adjust the camera back up for your big reveal, which could be something written on your back. It could be a big piece of paper that was there the entire time. It could be a picture frame, something in the back that was there the entire time. Something big or something small. It could be an envelope that was propped up, but in the shot the entire time, right? Okay, so that's some ideas for symbolic. Confession. A confession is a version, of course, of Curry's "Do As I Do," not Out of This World. That's so good. And here, since they're not going to touch, or it's easy enough for you to, as you deal the cards, right, at first you need to shuffle the cards thoroughly, right? So remember all those suggestions I made with laying on of hands earlier on this video, okay? So once you've really shuffled the cards, then you just you're going to deal through the cards slowly until you say, you tell me left or right. And they say left, you put a card in the left. They say right, you put a card in the right. You go left or right, so the whole thing. Very simple way, an effective way to keep them engaged, but make sure they're convinced they had an absolutely free choice to divide the piles in a very fair manner. All right? And you could even put them in glasses. If you have just glasses that are just the right, like tumbler size, you can drop the cards in so the backs are still facing them, okay? But they remain propped up as well. That can be a very dramatic way before you do your switch and all that. Okay, reenactment. This is great for FaceTime. It really is, or Skype, or Zoom for sure. Again, make sure that the card case remains on the table and in full view the entire time. Okay, but for this one, I've suggested using a wine glass or a coffee cup to keep things raised so they're in the shot. You're going to find that this technique of palming off the card and then secretly adding it to the card case really doesn't work great off a wine glass or off this. The card case really should be resting on a table. So for this one, I'd strongly suggest you get a nice wide shot where the card case is on the table, in the shot, or on the surface, or on the counter, the kitchen table, whatever it is, and is there the whole time. You'll find that this secret load-on technique, you don't want to be picking it up off a glass of wine or finagling it all. It's got to really flow. Right? Greed. Yeah, it's reach off camera. Of course, it's like Homicide and Confession. Regarding how easy it is to go off camera to get the clip or to get something and switch in. So that works really well. A last trick here I want to touch about is the locked room mystery. Now, I created the locked room mystery. It's a version of an old principle, an old over-the-phone thing you can do. The locked room mystery. I've got some crazy reactions, some really creepy, almost scared people reactions from this trick. And I've tried it virtually, where I've done the whole thing identical, and I have my setup, I have my cards just off to the side, and while I'm talking to them, while they're doing their thing, it's easy for me to spread my cards into a spread off camera so I can cite my setup and the matching deck and the whole thing. However, I'm going to tell you right now, this doesn't play as well on a virtual performance with a video component as it does over the phone. Straight up, just over the phone without a video component, this plays better. The two reasons I think it does is, first, when I've done this virtually, even though I say to people, make sure I can't see your cards while you're cutting, set it up like this, when I'm able to impossibly tell them the next card, the card on the table, and the card they have in their back pocket, or the card they're sitting on, when I'm able to tell that, the most obvious and only solution people think of is, he must have seen it through my camera. He must have flashed, he made it sound like it was all a real set routine, but I bet at some point he saw an image of this or that. That's the only explanation. You've given them an out and they go for it with the video. But if you do it just over a phone conversation with no video component, this trick gets a stronger reaction. So try it both ways. Friends and family and clients, whatever, try both ways. It really does well both ways, but I find with the phone, without the video, it's even more convincing, even more impossible, which is kind of ironic. There you have it. A whole bunch of ideas. I hope you agree that it was better for me to share this stuff with you and chat with you directly rather than trying to read this stuff. Have fun with this. And these are strange days. These are strange days doing all this stuff virtually and online and all that stuff. But it's like any other creative vehicle. Don't think of it as a limited thing. It's not as good as live. Think of it as different. It's a different performing situation where it's going to have things that are stronger than the live, and it's going to have a different set of potential, a different set of tools involved.